Hello everyone, and welcome to another Stamp Chatter video. My name is Leanne, and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in the west coast of British Columbia, where it rains a lot this time of year. We're all used to it. Don't really like the dark. I think I'd rather take cold and sunny any day, but I was born and raised here, so this is what I'm used to. Anyway, because of that, I just pulled out the Umbrella Days stamp set and thought, I'm going to make a card with that set today, seeing as it's raining. Okay, so I forget the name of this fun fold. I have a feeling it might be called a split fold. I'm very bad at remembering the name of fun folds, but I've just cut a piece of Granny Apple Green that's 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and I'm gonna score it at 5 1/2. And then I'm going to, at 3/4 of an inch, I'm gonna cut 2 slits on each side. Doesn't matter which panel you choose. This will become your front though, the card that you split. So I'm just gonna line up that score line on my cutter with the score line on my cardstock and go up. Flip this over. A little harder to see the score line, but it is there. Go up again. So I have 2 sides here that are 3/4. You can make it wider if you want to. This just worked for me for what I wanted to do today, but you could do an inch if you wanted to. And then, anyway, I'm just gonna fold these over, make sure they line up. I can see my blades getting a bit old. I've got a bit ragged my edges. Oh well, I will change that later. Okay, so this is what I mean by a split fold, and we're gonna play around with that. Okay, so I'm gonna use today the DSP paper that was free during celebration. It was called Fruit Salad. So I have a whole bunch of scraps here, and because I'm gonna take this stamp and we're gonna fill it in with designer paper, and so I'm going to stamp with my tuxedo black that I put in one of those empty white ink pads. When you buy the white pigment ink pad from Stampin' Up, you get the pigment in the re-inker, and then you get a blank stamp set, and I'm telling you, this just works way better. Okay, so I'm going to stamp the umbrella, and I'm gonna stamp her boots, just like that. And what else? I'm also going to bring in some red. Here we go. So here's some red. I'm gonna do her jacket in the red. Just like that. I'm gonna pause it here for a minute. I'm gonna cut these pieces out and I'll be right back. Okay, I have cut those 3 pieces out, and just a note when you're doing this is to, even here, I could have cut more. Normally I would leave maybe a 1/16 of an inch around whatever I'm fussy cutting, but when I'm using designer paper to fill in a stamped image, I cut right on the black line, so there's really barely any of that black showing, because when you go to put it inside your stamped image, you've already got that outline that's gonna fill it in. So personally, I think that looks a bit better, but just don't leave a border is all I'm saying. Okay, so we're gonna do that. I'm gonna bring in some white cardstock. Here, and I'm gonna measure this again. We know that this is 5 1/2, but this is 2 3/4. So I'm gonna do 2 1/2 is 4. I'm gonna go 2 5/8. 2 5/8 by 5 3/8. 2 5/8 by 5 3/8. So bring in my cutter. 2 5/8 by 5 and 1 2 3/8. Let's see. So again, a scant border on this one. Yep, just like that. All right, and I'll bring in some other DSP, and I will do that again. I'll cut this down to 5 3/8. 5 and 1 2 3. All right, and my sides here were 3/4 of an inch, and so I'm going to go 3 quarters minus 1/8. What does that give me? 5/8. And I'm going to cut 2 pieces that are 5/8, and I think that'll work. So they're narrow, but it works for what I want. So let's see here. Like that. Yep. Like this. Okay. Bring in my glue. Glue those down, get those out of the way. I hope you were able to get lots of fun stuff during celebration. I know I did. I think it doesn't last long, celebration, and so I find I don't have a whole lot of time to play with the new stuff that I get. But I sure loved the papers. Loved the papers. So I'm using them up. Okay, we'll put our last strip down. Put that here. This is directional. I don't know if you can tell. These are little carrots, but if you don't look close enough, you won't really notice that they're carrots. Okay. I'm gonna put this aside for a second, bring in that white piece in the rain, and with the rain, I'm gonna bring in my Versamark, and we're gonna emboss the rain in some clear embossing powder. So, oh, my Versamark is so dirty. It's been years. Here's a cleaner one. I'm gonna use that one. I don't think it really matters, but I am doing clear today, so. Okay, so it goes this way. And I'm gonna stamp right off the page, but I'm not gonna stamp near the top. Now, it is hard to see where you've stamped. I'm gonna try and guess, hopefully, get it right. And they're not overlapping. Do one more over here. Okay. And I will find out when I pour some clear embossing powder over this. Good. Bad. Okay, I'll bring in my tool gun, which my husband borrowed the other day. So I need to plug it in. Okay, I'm just gonna warm up my heat gun for a second here, and then we will get this to melt. Never gets old watching embossing powder transform when you put the heat gun on it. Okay, I think I got that all. So I'm not sure if you can see that. A little bit of rain. Not sure. Subtle, but it's cute. Okay, I'm gonna bring in another piece here of Whisper White, and let's do some clouds. So there are clouds in the die set that it comes with if you purchase the bundle. And mine are right here. I'm going to use a blender brush because I don't want my clouds to be pure white. So I might have enough ink on here. I basically want a dirty looking cloud, gray cloud. See, that's actually muddy looking. So maybe I will get a clean brush if I have one. Let's see if that's clean, and I will get some gray granite. And I'm going to dirty up in essence. Not a lot, like barely. I don't even know if you'll be able to see it, but it is enough to sort of get a gray cloud. Maybe you can see the difference between this and the white here. But I'm going to cut these out. Bring in my mini emboss here. Put these clouds on here. And let's cut that out. Whoop. Okay, so I've got those pieces. And I also want, I better cut this down. It's a bit too big. I'm going to cut that down to 3 inches. And let's stamp our girl on this, and then we will cut it out. Ooh, and I also want to stamp the doggy. Let's do the little dog while we're at it. Okay. I'll do a little coloring here before this gets cut out. So I'm going to bring in this is the dark smoky slate. And I'm just going to go on the creases of her leggings. Just like that. Maybe in between her jacket where there might be a bit of a shadow. Bring in the light and then just go over the whole thing. And I'm not going to worry about coloring into the boots by accident because that's all going to get covered up. Okay, so that's her pants. And the doggy. You know, with the dog, I know he has a jacket, if I can find there. That is his little die for a jacket. And I would love him to have maybe a yellow jacket. So let's bring in some of this, and I don't even have to stamp this. I can just run this one through just like this and give him his little jacket. So let's just put that there. Run that through. All right, now he's got a little jacket. All right, let's put this together and then we can punch that out. So here we have our little lady. I am going to take some brown actually in her jacket here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut her out with the die cut first. The reason I'm doing that is, you know, if I make a silly mistake after I glue these pieces down and I'm a bit off, I get a bit mad at myself. I can always cut out another one and I haven't wasted any designer paper. So let me bring in a little bit of tape here. And hopefully I got that right. And the doggy. The dog was here a second ago, not there. All right, I'll do this first and I'll find the dog in a bit. So let's bring this in again with my perfect. All right, give me a sec. I'm gonna find the little dog and cut it out and be right back. Alrighty, my little doggy die fell on the floor. That was almost impossible to find. I thought maybe I'd lost him. I could put him back on my magnetic plate where he should have been. Okay, so now I have all these pieces. So I'm gonna bring in some glue and let's start putting this together. So I'll put the umbrella on so you can see what I mean by cutting on the black line. So it literally fits inside that image perfectly. And we'll do the jacket. This is a fun way of getting color. A little bit of a different way. So we'll put her jacket and her boots to match her umbrella. There are my tweezers. Okay. Isn't she cute? Okay, so I'm gonna color her braid brown right over top of the designer paper. So you'll have to do a darker color than your designer piece, but that pops that out. So she's done. Let's do the little doggy. Now what color do we want him to be? I might just take this lighter brown. This is part of the neutral package. This is SU 500 if you're wondering what color. I'm just going to, not much of this dog's body shows, but I will leave a little bit of white. Just do his paws and his tail. Can't remember what shows. Let's see what shows. This little jacket will go on like this. Okay. Kind of looks like a beagle, doesn't it? My girlfriend just adopted a cutest 1-year-old beagle I've ever seen in my life. Such an adorable puppy. All right, maybe I'll take some dark brown little patches at the end of his tail, maybe. Now he'll really look like a beagle. Little, it's always risky doing the ear. I'm gonna leave it. Oh, there's a little bit of his ear back here. I'll do that, maybe. A little bit like that. Oh wait, now we will do his jacket. This isn't a quick card, but it is kind of fun to make. And you just stick that on. It does cover his collar. There you go. All right, so now I have my pieces. Let's punch out my clouds here. And let's bring in my card. my card base. Let's bring that back. I'm going to glue this to the front. Like that. Put this pin back in my glue so it doesn't dry out. All right. And glue this down. So we are coming together. All right, so I didn't do my raindrops to the top on purpose, so I could put my clouds kind of like that. I was gonna pop them up, but I don't think I will. Just gonna glue them down. So so I want to make sure, in case he hangs over, and it's going to hang over just a little bit, I don't have any glue on the piece that hangs over. So they're a little darker than the white, which I wanted. I didn't want them like black, but you know, rain clouds aren't exactly pure white. So, okay, make sure there's no glue there. Okay, just like that. Okay, so I have this little piece. This is also part of the dies that you get in the bundle. So that is grass. I'm going to bring in some granny apple, some scrap. Maybe I'll use this one. And I'm going to cut out some grass. But you'll see that it isn't quite the length. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run this through my embossing machine, and then I'm going to move this up and do it again so I get a really long piece of grass. And then I'm going to flip it over and do it again on this side. And that way I will have grass that is long enough. So let's put that in here. Out of the way. So I'm thinking I might just use these two pieces, kind of like this or this, maybe like that. I think that's how I'm going to do it. So let's bring this back in. I am going to stamp this little saying, "The storm will end and the sun will shine again," on the bottom here. With my tuxedo. I should have done this earlier, because if I make a mistake, I'm not going to be happy with myself. So I'm actually going to clean this, get a nice clean stamp so I get a nice crisp image and maybe not a blotchy one. So let's clean that. Okay, nice and clean. There we go. Now, let's stamp that up, ink it up, and right at the bottom here. Nice. Perfect. Happy with that. Okay, now we can do some assembly. All right, I am going to glue or pop. I think I'm going to pop up. And we'll put a couple of little mini dimensions along the bottom here where they fit. Let me see if that's even long enough. I think I'll be okay. Maybe I'll put one in the middle of these two right here. I could cut a strip too if I wanted to out of the, what do they call that? These square pieces of foam that you also get from Stampin' Up. And let's get that little, all right, so I just kind of want a little bit of dimension to the grass. I am going to put it up a little bit. And I will cut it. Get a pencil. I don't measure sometimes. I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. That's what crafting's about anyway, isn't it? All right. So just like that, but I don't like this down here, so I'm going to cut that off. So I didn't really measure. I just took a scrap piece and kind of did that. So I'm going to bring that down to where that is, and I'm going to stick it just to the center piece. So make sure that you don't put glue where you don't want it. Take this again. I'm just going to put it in the center here. Okay, so that when I open it, that's how it's going to open. And then we can tuck her a little bit. Okay, I'm going to put her over top, and I might tuck the dog in back here a little bit like that, I think. And I think it'll be okay. I think should be fine if I do that. Okay, let me bring in, because I've put her on top of the grass, which is popped up, I will pop her up as well. So I've got some end pieces here from my dimensions, and I'll just do that. That should work. A little bit of glue on her feet. Under the clouds. Okay, that should still work. And then the puppy, I'm going to tuck them in a little bit in front of her. Just put a little bit of glue down here. Actually, I can glue him. Oops. Oh, and there's my doggy. What time? Must mean the mailman's nearby. Okay, we'll tuck this little guy. Yep. Well, perfect timing because my card is almost done. Let's just put a nice piece in the middle. So I'm just going to do, let's see, just a 4 by 5 1/4 piece on the inside, something to write on. And we're done with this card. So I hope it's sunny wherever you are watching from today, but you know, if it's a rainy day, then maybe you can grab a stamp set or two and just play along. So this is my card. You know, some people have glued these edges down, so then you just basically have this. You know, I'm going to. I'm going to. I just decided I'm going to because they seem a little pointless otherwise. So let's put a little bit of glue here, pop that down. This is quite narrow and it can move on you like shift, so make sure that if you're doing this that you make sure that you align it properly. Just like that. Okay, so there we go. There is my rainy day card for today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thanks so much for watching and for subscribing to my channel. It does encourage me to do more and more for you. And we will catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye.